It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. Okay, here we go. Oh, my God. All right, what do we do? I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. Just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. What else do I always say? Check out the Patreon, our Patreon. A lot of great stuff up there. I just put up a new show tonight with Heidi Hollis, who was from Coast to Coast, with the most of the most. Let's see here. Heidi Hollis, she wrote a book about shadow people and the Hat Man. You know those things you see when you're on meth? Okay, so she wrote like 10 books about the Hat Man and shadow people and this kind of stuff like that. It was an interesting interview. I enjoyed it. So you can check that out. It's on our Patreon. Help support the show. Can really use the support right now. Right, guys, if you can share the show, if you can retweet the show, please, please, please do that. The Spreaker link, I get like another 5% if they listen on Spreaker. This is the big time of the year where the ad revenue, because the holiday ad revenue is so high. I tell you something, man. You know, I've been complaining the past couple of weeks, about a month, about them doing this construction upstairs. And here it is now, 8 o'clock, on a Friday night, after our holiday, and they're sawing, hammering, and banging. They turn the water off again this week. It's just if you're out there, if you can get like a fake passport, okay, because I'm no longer responsible for what I'm going to do here, and I might need to make a hasty retreat out of the country. There's another show on Patreon, Thoughts Judge, Oppenheimer's Deadly Toys, the Nuclear Weapons Hoax. Oh, boy. That's another fun show. There we got. Remember the whole John S. Captain saga? It's John S. Captain, but my friend there, Ed Parnell, put John A. Captain. John S. Captain was this crazy story about how his girlfriend was involved with the Illuminati and was in something with a dam, this dam in Seattle or something like that, or Portland, Oregon. I forget what it was. Just this, she was murdered, horrifically by these characters. A lot of stuff went on behind the scenes when I did those shows, where I actually was talking to the homicide detectives in that case. A lot goes on here, man. You guys have no idea about. Everybody thinks it's all fun and games. It's a big joke. Anthony Feinstein, Moral Courage, 19 Profiles of an Investigative Journalist. I really enjoyed the show. I really enjoyed this interview. The book looks excellent and really hit home with me. This guy deals with, he gives therapy to journalists that are suffering from traumatic stress and all kinds of stuff like that. Hey, say a prayer for my friend Gigi, okay? She's having a baby. She's having a tough time. And at the same time, her ex is serving her with custody and child support papers. Actually, I think she's emailing me right now. She might be in the ER right this minute, or in the hospital, in a hospital bed. So if you pray out there, please say a prayer for my friend Gigi. A real sweetheart. I know such nice people, man. It's just amazing. Richard Otto, The Paradox of Our National Security Complex, How Secrecy and Security Diminish Our Liberty and Threaten Our Democratic Republic. Amy Villella is an old repeat. Shaylin should not have died. I had Amy Villella on the show years ago, and then after I had her on, she was a local Vegas woman whose daughter died because of the healthcare system. Her daughter was out of the Army and had a lapse in her medical coverage and had this visit to the hospital, and they just kind of shooed her away. And she wound up dying. But this show here, we had Amy Villella on. Then after us, she was interviewed by Rolling Stone magazine. And her career took off after that. She was in Knock Down the House, that film about what do they call them? The DSL Democrats. I forget what they call them. AOC and all those kind of people. This was back in the days when people couldn't say AOC. They were trying to say Alexandria Ocasio, or Alexandria Cortez. No one could say it back when I first interviewed Amy Vilela. But then she became a spokesperson, a surrogate for Bernie Sanders. So I had her first, man. Victoria Wentner, my daughter. I stopped mentioning my daughter on the show. Sorry about that. But, she interned for Amy Vilela when she was, and she coached Amy Vilela in her Senate debate. Okay, my kid coached a person running for Congress in their congressional debate when she was like in high school. She was like 17 years old. Okay. I'm going to have to get them some dynamite or something upstairs. And then they did something, too, where now when they turn on the water up there, it's like, every time the water goes on, man, I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to move. It's just a nightmare. Right during my show. Roger Rappaport, Searching for Patty Hearst, the true crime novel. This fellow here, Roger Rappaport, was like a hippie activist type guy during the Patty Hearst kidnapping. And he wound up with Steve Weed, Patty Hearst's boyfriend, wound up living with him. Ian Totten, West Memphis 3. This is all in the Patreon. John A. Captain. We had 2 shows, but all together I did 3 shows with John S. Captain. Okay, but put John A. Captain. He's better off because this guy's a nut. He swears that we took his interview and sped up his voice to make fun of him or whatever. I don't know. But here I got these homicide detectives contacting me. See how we're doing on time. See if the show's over yet. Oh, no, we got another 50 minutes to go. I'll get through it. Don't worry about me. I'll get through it. Warmonger Jerry Kuzmarov from CorporateActionMagazine.com. Warmonger, how Clinton's malign foreign policy launched the U.S. trajectory from Bush 2 to Biden. What a horrible title. But it's a very good interview, so keep an eye on him. Richard Otto again. Miriam Petrie, This Man from Family Court Corruption. Tonight we're going to have 2 shows. John Hankey, Part 1 and Part 2. And it's all about his new documentary film that came out. Let's see what it's called. It's called Breakthrough, the documentary about the John F. Kennedy assassination. People are very excited about all the repeats I played this week of all the interviews I've done about the JFK assassination, which so many of them are with people actually involved or know directly people involved. I don't know where you're going to find that anywhere else. All these people I found, out of nowhere, or I knew them as a child. So I don't know, anybody can top that kind of work, Of course, there's the, you got your, I hate to say the JFK hacks, the JFK researcher community, that are all this incestuous bunch and they're all fighting with each other and bickering over, how many times did the Umbrella Man open and close his umbrella, and all this wacky stuff, man. But I've brought in some new people into the arena. Yeah, who cares, right? 10 years of hard work, man. And where's it got me? Really nowhere. People hammering over my head 24 hours a day. So John Hankey tonight. Then I'm doing an interview with a woman who lives there in East Palestine, where that train derailment took place. And you get a kind of an idea of what the hell they went through over there, what they're still going through over there, and how this train company pretty much just bought up the town, man. They're the cheapest thing to do it is not settle all the people. Just buy the mayor, buy the police, buy the fire department. Buy them. And then just treat them like crap. So we got that there. Okay, check out our TikTok, Ed Opperman TikTok. If you're out there, you want to help the show, you want to help out your old buddy Ed Opperman, shows up here for work, 10 years without missing a day. Brings us some of the best exclusive stuff out there we've had in the past 10 years. Originated content and topics and categories of this kind of show. People, there's 100 people out there who are now doing the work that I made popular. Some of it's complete disinfo, some of it's just stupidity, some of it's garbage. The rest are okay. Okay, all right. But if you want to help out, I need people to volunteer and help me make TikToks and Reels to drive traffic to the podcast during this high revenue Christmas season. Very important. We got a chance to keep this thing going. You know, otherwise, man, everything may come crushing down. And I would say by February, that would be it. Even as it is, it's looking bad. I got offered this job to do like polygraph work. And it's a decent paying job. I can still do what I'm doing now. I can keep my PI work. I can keep the radio show. I would have to relocate. It would be like a routine. You know, I'd have to work, on a routine, on a scheduled routine. The straw that's breaking the camel's, the deal breaker on his deal. The guy who owns the company is a good guy. I like him. He does a lot of criminal defense work, but and a lot of, other stuff kind of work too. But he does screenings for national security clearances. And he does work too for prosecutors. And I've never worked for either one. And I can't do it. I just can't do it. And, it's interesting too. I wasn't going to talk about this at all, but, I told him, I said, first of all, I can't do it because of my conscience. I'm not going to work for the government. I want to work for the intelligence, And then I says, God forbid, if people found out, my whole legacy would be destroyed. My whole, my work of, counterinsurgency, my revolutionary work, my agitation, my activism would all be for naught. My whole reputation would go down the toilet. And he goes, "Oh, Ed, man, well, those people, they don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about your show, but and all those people, those social justice and all those kind of people you fight for, man. They don't. What do they do for you? Did they support you? Nothing. Did they put up money in your pocket? Did they give you a paycheck? Nothing. And it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with them, But still, that is just my personal conscience. I cannot work for the man. Not gonna do it. I'll die hungry and with syphilis. Oh God, I'll go out like Hemingway. I forgot. So the name of tonight's show is about the Trump Gone Wild. Last week, the title of the show was about Trump Gone Wild. I was going to do this whole thing about the Trump mistrial motions he filed in his $250 million Letitia James, New York City civil lawsuit there. And comparing that to Joe Francis from Girls Gone Wild and when he had his wild litigation down in Florida. But I got so caught up in the glory holes. Oh, my God. If you haven't heard that story, go back and listen to it. Even I went back and listened to it. It was so funny. And what happened was I got these crazy people, and they're not all crazy. There's a bunch of crazy ones, and then there's people that are weaponizing these crazy people with connections to all kinds of nasty folks out there. And so I caught one of them posting online about his interest in glory holes, which is like this homosexual thing that men do. They go to these bathrooms, these rest stops and stuff like that with a hole, where they did, waist high and the other guy's on the other end on his knees. And I tell the whole story there. And I know who it traces back to. And you would think that these people, they would hear this and they would feel some kind of shame or humiliation or something like that. But no, they double down. And their friends don't care. Their friends know that their other friends are these sexual perverted deviants. Everybody do whatever you want, but come on, that's pretty disgusting behavior, man. Sticking your thing through a hole in a wall for something strange. I don't know how you could hold your head up doing that, man. I'm a pretty liberal guy. Okay, I'm a pretty live and let live kind of guy, man. But that's some pretty, I don't know, raunchy, whatever that is, So I call this guy out on the air. I don't name him by name, but these are just the guys I think of. All his buddies know it's him because they're spamming my couple of my pages on Facebook and stuff like that with all this stuff. just unbelievable, man. You know, where I am dealing with some really dirty, filthy people, man. So I forgot to get into the whole thing about the Trump's gone wild. President Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, in his New York City case, filed a motion for mistrial against Judge Ergen, claiming this bizarre, I read the whole damn thing, it was just crazy. And no normal attorney, I couldn't find an attorney to do a mistrial motion like this for me. Basically, the cause of the mistrial was that the judge has a clerk who is a senior law clerk who he seeks advice from, and that the clerk sits too close to the bench. Okay, and it looks like there's two judges up there, which is, the judge can do whatever you want. I've seen clerks really, really run courtrooms, you know, and no one says a word about this. That's just normal stuff. And by the way, too, when I say this stuff to you, you know, and I do sometimes creep up to the creepy line there of giving legal advice. And I know I tend to do that sometimes, and I apologize for that. I don't mean to do that. I'm not an attorney. I'm a private investigator. I'm a paralegal. I have a lot of experience, though, and I give you my life's experience. But let me tell you something. I communicate all week long with judges, former judges, prosecutors, attorneys who listen to this show, or just, you know, listen to the show. They like the show. People, former guests on the show. Talk to them all the time. The guy that's offering me this job is a polygraph examiner. He was a former guest on the show. You know, I keep in touch with these people. We're friendly. You know, and I hear all the time, oh, Ed, man, you were spot on about what you were saying there about the Trump litigation. So it's not this whole thing where people love to dismiss me. Oh, Ed hates Trump, so he just goes on the air and says bad things about Trump every week. No, I'm calling him the way I see him. And by the way, I'm going to get into something because I'm going to get into a whole thing about Trump's chief financial officer crying on the stand this week. Okay, because that's being portrayed to you incorrectly. And I look, where the chips fall, where they may. Okay, I want you to know what I know. Okay, and you could be an idiot about it. You can not accept it. I don't care. You know, I got a responsibility here. You know, and maybe you should get that book, Moral Courage, and you might understand what my responsibility here is. You might understand where I'm coming from when I put a microphone in front of my face. Okay. It's not for YouTube clicks. And so Trump files this insane motion that I know I could never get an attorney to file for me. Even though my closest buddy, Rich LaRosa, back in Staten Island, I couldn't get him to do it for me. And I got him to do some stuff for me. I got him to do some stuff for me. All right? Some water. But it reminds me, I'm calling it Trump gone wild. It reminds me of the motions I used to see that Joe Francis was filing in his defense down in Florida. I forget what it was, like Daytona Beach or something like that. It was around 2005 or something. Joe Francis says, I'm bringing my Girls Gone Wild down to Florida. And they told him, hey, man, you're not coming down here with that shenanigans during spring break and abuse our young girls here and with your behavior and stuff like that. And he did. He said, oh, I don't care what you see. He went down there. They arrested him, man, for sex trafficking and deep pornography, drug possession, bringing drugs into the jail. Then it escalated and expanded into tax evasions. And this guy hired some serious legal attorneys down there. Yeah, Joe Black working for him at one point. Roy Black. Joe Black was one of the guys in Manhattan from, I think they talk about him in that movie, with the Fugazi there with Al Pacino. Donnie Brasco. But so he had a real good legal team. The guy has money. Joe Francis has had money before Girls Gone Wild. I don't know if people are aware of this. I know some people who know Joe Francis very well. He won't even return an email from me. He's never going to come on his show, so I'll say whatever I want. As long as I know it's true. Joe Francis was flying around on a private jet with Paris Hilton. Okay? During that period of time, when Paris Hilton had that sex tape with Rick Solomon, you know, who later on married Pam Anderson, you know, other people. What about he does for a living? Joe Francis was hanging around with Rick Solomon and Paris Hilton on his private jet before Girls Gone Wild. Before flying back and forth to Mexico on jaunts and joy rides. Okay, with all these fun people. Jet sitter. I wonder where that money came from. He's living in Mexico now, by the way, too, you know. Good old Joe Francis. So Joe Francis had money and was into stuff before Girls Gone Wild. Whatever that was, I don't know. But it was profitable. And by the way, too, you know, in that tape, that Paris, One Night in Paris tape, she's talking about being with this guy and that they've been together for this certain period of time. She was underage when they first started going together. That's on the tape. That's not me saying that. Okay? That's a crime. All right? That's coming out of their own mouths when they're chit-chatting. I don't know why it wasn't cut out. 24 minutes in. Oh, my goodness. So he used to file these bizarre motions, man, where he would talk about the judge and the judge's personal life and stuff. And finally, he fired all his attorneys. He started representing himself. And he had another guest that was on this show early on when the show first started, Steph Watts, who was a producer for, who's that woman? Nancy Grace. You know, Nancy Grace's producer. Nancy Grace's producer was at the council table when Joe Francis was defending himself down there in Florida. So Joe Francis, he got hit with like a huge multi-million-dollar tax fee. Still hasn't paid it off yet. There you go there with the Trump's Gone Wild. What else has gone with Trump's case this week? Get this, man, is a big one. That guy, Jason Miller. Jason Miller, who was, I think he was Trump's digital marketing guy, something like that, right? For the campaign. He's a surrogate, though, for sure. A high-level surrogate. And he was just hit with a lawsuit for rape, sex trafficking, sexual coercion, abuse, battery of a woman, AJ Delgado, who's another high-level 2016 Trump campaign aide, who's like a well-known person, man. She has a career, okay? And she's suing Jason Miller, who had issues previous to this in his own divorce about strippers and all kind of problems with that too, as well, that he came right out and said, yeah, it's all true. Now he's getting these women drunk, sexually harassing them, sex trafficking them. Now, people who see these things right away, right, and they say, oh, these women will say anything for money. Oh, they'll just say anything for AJ Delgado has a real career. This is going to harm her career. Going public, it's difficult enough when these women are surviving this kind of abuse and this kind of trauma to get them to stand up for their rights and seek compensation. It's difficult. And even when you get them to agree to it, it's even more difficult going through the process of just the step by step, doing things. Okay, because it's traumatic. Nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to go through this. Okay? So for her to stand up and go public like this, that can only negatively affect her career. And she has a real career. She has a career that she's going to get more money from than this lawsuit. So this is not something that's in for the money. But what this also demonstrates very clearly is that Trump does not have that kind of power that he had even a year ago. Even a year ago, because this went on years ago. So in the last year, the year before that, someone like AJ Delgado was afraid to come forward because of the power of Trump. And now the writing on the wall is that he doesn't have that kind of juice anymore. Oh, Ed, you just hate Trump. Ed just makes this stuff up. He goes, oh, all these libtards. He said, Ed's a libtard. I just heard him say before he's liberal. Okay, fine. Ex-Trump Organization accountant, the CFO, Jeffrey McConaughey, broke down in tears on a witness stand Tuesday. Now, when I saw this, I thought just like everybody else thought when they were reading this. Maybe I didn't hear about this, okay? Maybe because it's, Thanksgiving week. Maybe it slipped by you, but, I keep an eye on these kind of things, and I saw this story. And I saw how it was being portrayed in the news that, because he broke down during the prosecution. He's a defense witness. So when the defense counsel was up there asking him questions, that's all prepared. You got, you're prepared for what they're asking you. But when the district attorney started asking him questions, he broke down, and he broke. And by the way, too, this guy's had to retire. He's had to retire. And he's in a situation where he got a what do they call that when you leave, like a golden parachute of $500,000, right? Exit fee. Anyway, you know how they give you money when you leave a place. So they offered him $500,000, but he's only gotten $375 of it. They're holding back $125 to see how his testimony goes. So he's got all that pressure. Now, while he's here testifying for the defense on all these matters here, the prosecutor's office is subpoenaing him and records and stuff like that for possible criminal charges himself and for future criminal charges that could be coming down the pike. And guess what? They could be coming down against Trump Jr., and Eric, too, as well. The same fraud charges now that are now in civil court could wind up in criminal court. I'm telling you, man, this is a very, very ugly situation. But the impression I got from a friend of mine who's in that courtroom, who saw this guy breaking down, and she said, Ed, let me tell you something, man. When this guy started getting all choked up and breaking down, you could hear a pin drop. And people were traumatized in that courtroom watching this happen. This poor guy who had worked hard his whole life and kept saying, I'm an honest man. I would try to do the right thing. I tried to do the right thing. And now I'm taking the fall for everything here. And now there's the possibility that I'm going to get criminal charges against me too. I just want to, I don't want to be the scapegoat anymore. Like, this guy's got the government down on his ass, and he's got the Trump organization down on his ass, and he's like just suicidal. Okay, but look, even when you got a guy who's guilty, man, this prosecutorial misconduct and abuses and pressure that goes on, man, that's not right either. That's not right either. Another big thing that happened this week was the bail revocation hearing for Harrison Floyd. Now, you remember I was telling you last week, in between glory hole stories. In between the glory hole stories. How are we doing on time here? 31 minutes. Okay, we might end early because I get them banging upstairs. Harrison Floyd is the fellow who's up there with, I call them, the R. Kelly 3. He's the one with African Americans for Trump, who was part of this group with this ex-cop who became a clergyman, and the former publicist for R. Kelly, who was R. Kelly's publicist during the time that R. Kelly had those little girls. They were little girls. Some of those kids were 13 years old. I think one of them was 11 years old, was getting urinated on, right? Those little girls in cages in Trump Tower in Chicago. She was his publicist, fending off these questions. Okay? The guy's in prison now, so we know he's guilty, right? Anybody argue with that? But this lovely woman was his spokesperson. She didn't quit until after the documentary came out that was just so black and white that there's no one stuck with this guy at that point. Okay? And these three went and they tried to intimidate a poll worker. Okay? So they all get arrested, of course, with the 19 RICO co-defendants. And he couldn't make bail, this guy. He is the one with the most to lose in this whole situation. He couldn't make bail. So he's the only one that was held in there. Oh, the pot guy, they kept him in there. And everybody else on bail, but they wouldn't let him out. It's racist. Trump, it was racist against Trump. Okay. And then it turns out he got into a fist fight. There was a federal agent serving a subpoena and got into a fist fight with them. And then he had a standoff. He locked his door. He had his kid in the house. Well, this guy's out there. And then there was this whole thing about these leaked proffer tapes of Sidney Powell and Jenna Ellis and Cheeseborough and the bail bondsman. Okay, and everyone thought it was Harrison Floyd who leaked these things. I thought it was because the district attorney attached a exhibit of an email chain. His attorney says, yes, we did it. Okay, then later I said, oh, no, we didn't do it. Okay, it was a mistake. It was a typo. Okay, all right. So I thought it was him, okay, and then the DA thought it was him originally. Another attorney fell on his sword and said it was me. And then this guy's been posting some blatant threats, man, to the complainant in his case on Twitter. Okay, so they held a bail revocation hearing on him because you're not allowed to communicate with the victim in the case in a criminal case, either directly or indirectly. So you can't call them up on the phone and say, hey, you got no case against me. Bah. You'll get your bail revoked. You can't drive by their house and yell out the window with a megaphone, hey, you got no case against me. That's indirectly. Okay? So you can't also post on social media, hey, you got no case against me. Everyone, look at her. Everyone bother her. Everyone harass her, stalk her. Now, the judge denied the bail revocation. The guy's still out on bail with some new conditions that now he's not allowed to talk about anything on here. The only reason why, in my opinion, because I watched this hearing live, that his bail did not get revoked is because of bad lawyering. All around. The prosecution put on this district attorney investigator who wasn't paying attention to the questioning, and was his answers were just horrible. This guy just wasn't paying attention. Okay. Then they brought on an attorney for the woman, the poll worker that was being stalked. He was a mess. This guy was a horrible witness too. They were just everyone in that hearing was just a horrible lawyer and a horrible witness. But the worst one, the very, very worst, was Harrison Floyd's own lawyer, who at one point described the body cams, because when they made these threats against this poll worker, they did it at the police station in front of a cop, because the only way this woman would meet with them is in front of the police. Thank God for her. And the cop has his body cam on while she's the R. Kelly publicist is telling her, if you don't cooperate with us, you're going to lose your freedom. We're going to kidnap you, or we're going to have you arrested in some kind of way. Unbelievable. But this genius Harrison Floyd, his genius attorney at this bail revocation hearing, describes the body cam video of recording the threats. He says that the guy says that there's a video of his client threatening the victim in the case, which is basically what he's on trial for. So, if this guy's going to do this during a bail revocation hearing, I can only imagine what he's going to say during the actual trial. But anyway, you would think this is such a historic, significant case that they'd bring in some A-team lawyers, man, to work on this thing. I don't know what's going on. kind of makes you wonder, man. Like, is the fix in? You know, is the fix in with all this stuff? Is Ed Opperman like a stupid idiot? And I'm not. You know, no one's tipped me off. You know, like everyone's playing. You know, when you're at that poker game, you don't know who the sucker is. You know, it's you. You know. Oh God! Look around the room, man. If you don't know who the guy is, it must be you. So that's the motion to revoke the bail. And let's see. There's a whole bunch. You know, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in 1993. That came out this week. Cuomo got sued for another sex assault. Turns out that a friend of mine that used to work for me is very close to the Cuomo. She's very close to one of the Trump daughter-in-laws, too. So I'm getting a lot of behind-the-scenes gossip from all that now. But really nothing I can share with you without, you know. You know, I tell you, I saw this thing about there was a poll or a survey or something like that. I forget what the number was, like 60% of Americans on both political parties no longer believe in the American dream. The American dream. You know, what is the American dream anyway, you know? I guess it was a short period of time, like after the Korean War, really, where people were coming home and they built this affordable housing for all these soldiers to come home to, and you know, the people could buy a home, they could buy a car, their wife didn't have to work, you know, one family, you know, a breadwinner, you know. Schools were kind of decent for, I guess. You know, there was a lot of social problems, racism, bigotry, and you know, misogyny. You know, was all fine back then. But the American dream, you know, we weren't living like complete and utter slaves, which has just gotten. You know, I've been doing the show for 10 years. And the first couple of years I would come on, I would be so passionate and I would be screaming into the microphone, the conditions we live under today are intolerable. You know, and I would talk about the Walmart family and how they owned, you know, 30% of the country's wealth assets. You know, they would own, you know, then it became 40%. Who knows what it is? Not that I even publish it anymore, you know. Things have gotten so much worse economically for the average working man in this country in the past 10 years. It's like night and day, you know. Like, I never dreamed things could get this much worse so quickly. And not only is it destined, if we maintain this idea that somehow capitalism works for you and me, it can only get worse. And as capitalism fails, end stage capitalism, failing capitalism, it only gets worse and worse. You can see this inflation. Historically, the response to inflation is fascism. Okay? This is history. You know, and you know me, man. If you've been listening for 10 years, you know I'm no student of history, man. That's one of my worst topics, man. You know, but this is like blatantly right in your face kind of stuff that even a guy like me can keep up with. What I'm seeing even more, though, today is people consigned to live as slaves. Even these young people, and they're out there and they talk about socialism and my government name, and you know, and I don't conform, you know, and and we need to stand up and go Palestine, you know, end the war in Gaza, you know, that they say the right things, you know, but when it comes time to do something for their own self-interest, to stand up for themselves and to benefit themselves, to take a risk, they want to live like good little obedient slaves and get a job at Starbucks, or get a job maybe if they're real edgy, you know, at a thrift store, or people just want to work like slaves. They don't want to take any risk in their lives, you know, which is why you see the advent of these big cartels and who took over the smuggling industry and then the drug gangs that took over. You don't have those kind of independent dealers anymore either that I used to see in my lifetime. The American dream is, if it ever existed, it is now on its final breath. And it's fascinating, too. And I wasn't planning on saying any of this tonight. I just saw that we had some extra time. That even the people who you think kind of get it will we cannot comply. Do not comply with the face diaper. That's their line in the sand. Okay, that they won't wear a mask and they won't get a shot. Okay, but when it comes up to standing up for their financial interest, these same kind of people will say, "Oh, the media is wrong about this, and they're lying to you about that." And but when they tell us capitalism is good and God forbid socialism is bad, that's they're all along with. Okay, the enemy is the conditions we live under is slavery, and that's just inching us toward socialism. And God forbid we should ever get to socialism, because it might be as bad as we have it now. Okay, there's a chance it could be as bad as it is now. Everything that we're living under now is horrible, but it can only be worse if we're working for ourselves and keeping our income. Just insane. The brainwashing, man, and the mind control is just so out of control. And then they're going to lay their line in the ground, and I'm not putting on a mask. I'm standing up. Do not comply. Ha, ha, ha. What are you going to do? Jamie Foxx has some kind of a sex abuse thing came out, too. And Sean Puffy Combs hit with his third claim for rape and choking. People ask me to tell my story about Sean Puffy Combs. I'm going to tell you it now because he's too busy to sue me. But I ran into Sean Puff Daddy. First time was at the airport, Newark Airport. He was dating Jennifer Lopez at the time. And everyone talks about how he's a sharp dresser and stuff like that. He was wearing this really baggy suit. It was really oversized. And it was back in the old days, back in the 80s, when you would fly, you'd wear a suit. It was funny, right? And then, what do you call it? He was with a woman who I thought could have been Jennifer Lopez. She was a little chubby, too. Could have been her. But he was with this woman, but then again, he didn't want to kind of be seen with her. It was kind of a weird situation. There was that. The next time I heard a story about Puffy Combs was that when he was involved with Jennifer Lopez at that nightclub, and a pregnant woman got shot in the head. Okay? And a friend of mine just happened to be working EMT that night. And he took the woman who was shot in her hand, put her in the ambulance, and she would not stop screaming, "Puff Daddy shot me in the head. Puff Daddy just shot me in the head." Okay, and it got to the point where everyone around them were putting their fingers in their ears saying, "I can't hear you, I can't hear you." And they had Puffy on the ground, and Jennifer Lopez was carrying his gun in his purse, all this stuff. And he was yelling to his bodyguards and the people around him, "I'll give you 50,000. I'll give you 60,000. I'll give you 75,000 to take the case for him, to say that the gun was theirs. And ultimately, one of his bodyguards did take the case. Anyway, that's what I heard. That's one of the stories you hear out there. Boy, I'm telling a lot of stuff lately, man. I think my days are numbered. The Ed Opperman Thanksgiving Day tradition. Once again. It's so bizarre. I don't know, man. I just don't know. This has been my whole... I can't just say it's on the radio. It's kind of been my whole life around Thanksgiving, that people feel the need to invite me over for Thanksgiving. They think that I have no family. They think I have no friends, that I'm all alone. I did spend this Thanksgiving alone because there's work I got to get done. There's things I need to get done, and there's very little time I have to do it. And on a day when people aren't going to be calling me every 5 minutes and emailing me and texting me with nonsense... Yesterday and today are good days where I get some stuff done. without being bombarded, because you have an excuse. Okay, I'm not answering any calls. I'm not answering any emails. Just like everybody else. It's too busy. But it's always been, man, that people have always thought that I have nothing to do on Thanksgiving, that I have had no family. I'm talking about, I learned how to carve a turkey at 16 years old from my uncle, okay? My Cuban uncle taught me, because he worked at the Astor Hotel, and he taught me, I was like a waiter and stuff like that, a maitre d' and things. Worked his way up in the restaurant business. And he taught me how to carve a turkey. He said, I want to show you how to do this. You learn how to do it. And I learned how to do it. From that year on, I carved the turkey every year for my family. Then I learned, and because I lived, I'm a bachelor kind of guy. I cooked my own meals and stuff like that. I learned when I first got married, and my daughter was very little. We used to take her to the rec center for tumbling toddlers, I think it was called. She was like 3 years old, and the kids would run around, and they would do, roll around and things, and jump in a circle, and then there was a slide in the middle. And I was the only father there. There was only me and moms. Okay. So at the rec center, I taught a class at the rec center on holiday meals, how to cook, how to carve a turkey, how to make a turkey for dinner, how to make a ham, how to make a goose, lasagna. I taught this cooking class, believe it or not. And it was kind of fun too, man, because I would show them how to make the thing. Sometimes we'd cook it. Sometimes we'd eat, but we'd always have wine. We'd always have some wine at the class. And I got paid to do this. I charged, how many memberships, students would sign up for the class. Did a couple of years in a row. And then, the parenting takes up too much time. But it was a fun little thing I did, So I know how to cook all these things. People think I don't know how to Cook. Are you crazy? Ed Hoffman doesn't know how to cook? How could you even think that? Well, when my kid was little, all her friends, I made 3 meals a day for this whole neighborhood and all her friends, But even when I was a young guy, I told that story about how I ran into Pete Seeger a couple of times around Thanksgiving time. And, I ran into him like right before Thanksgiving. I said, do you have any plans for Thanksgiving? He goes, oh, no, but why don't you come out with us? And it turned out he had a place on Staten Island with his wife, Toshi, I think her name was, Tashi. And they had Thanksgiving dinner on Staten Island in Westerly. And I remember going there with my girlfriend, April, and bringing wine, big jug of wine. We brought a bunch of pot and stuff like that, too. And I had Thanksgiving dinner with my family, but Pete Seeger, I didn't think he had a place to go for Thanksgiving. And he didn't think I had a place to go for Thanksgiving, so he invited me to his Thanksgiving. I'm not going to turn down a Thanksgiving dinner with these cool old folk singers, man, I told the story a couple of times before. And then there was another time, too, where when I was in the beeper business and these people business associates invited me to Thanksgiving dinner thinking that I had nowhere to go. I had no family, I had no friends or anything. And another time, I went to one of those places where they help you write out your resume, and that guy invited me to Thanksgiving dinner with him and his wife. They thought I had nowhere to go. I don't know what it is. I give off this impression, or people who think I can't cook for myself. I'm some kind of lonely bachelor here, dying alone with my cat. I don't know how I give off that vibe, except that I can't share on social media anybody I'm dating, man, because I got these crazy people out there who are obsessed with my personal life. And I'm stalking people. It's just insane. And there's no way, man. There's just no way that this is just like ragtag people doing this, man. This is finance. This is, government, not government. This is, capitalist government intelligence operations. But every single year, I've been doing this for 15 years on social media. In the morning, what I'll do is I'll post this little thing saying, hey, how long does it take to defrost a turkey? I took this thing out of the freezer 2 hours ago. Okay? And I've been doing it so long that people on Twitter and Facebook, now they know the joke, okay? Enough people know the joke, but there's still a few people on my regular Facebook who still don't, they think, oh, Ed, he doesn't know how to cook. Oh, that man, that single bachelor, he doesn't know how to cook a turkey. I better tell him how to do it. They'd be, oh, Ed, it takes 3 days to defrost a turkey. Let me tell you how to do this. Oh, Ed, you can put it in water in the sink and that'll make it defrost. Like, I don't know this stuff. So there's a small town here in Florida that I frequent, and I belong to a group on Facebook in that town. And so I did it there this year. 300 responses. So they're telling me, you have to take that turkey out like 3 days ago. So I go, I did take it out. I took it to the movies, and then I took it for drinks. Or another one was, it takes days. You have to leave it out for 3 days. How does a turkey know if it's day or night? How does it know if it's days? What are 3 days? So over and over and over. It was really funny, man. And you're trolling these people. They have no idea, half of them. And then they all start catching on, and they all act like they're in on the joke. So that was my Thanksgiving. But guys, don't worry about me. Trust me, I'm not lonely. Okay, I'm not a lonely guy. All right. I could use some help. That's for sure. You know, I don't have the kind of help that I had back in Vegas. That's for sure. But I'm not some lonely guy with cats and sitting with my TV dinner. All right, let me get out of here. I'm playing John Henke twice tonight, part 1 and part 2. And then I think I am going to play that if I'm still up. I'm going to play that thing with the East Palestine. I got to get that show out there, man. You know, I got a lot of new content coming in. I taped a lot this week. All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Boycott Walmart, okay? Boycott capitalism, period. All right, guys. Good night. Love you so much. Check out my Opperman Report TikTok. That's if you can go there and build that up for me, re-tick it and talk it, share it. Put the reels up on your Instagram and stuff like that. That would be great, promoting the show. If you could retweet the link, the Spreaker link, man, that would be great if you could help me out with that right now. If you could help me make reels and TikToks, I could use that kind of help too. You just want to send a donation, never turn that down. Some guy sent me $40 today, man. Thank you so much. Okay, that's how rare a donation is that I've gotten in years. And if I want to advertise on the show too, man, we've got on a lot of stations. A lot of people listen to the show, that's for sure, man. Don't leave me alone. All right, guys, good night.